Hi, welcome in. Welcome in. My name is Cynthia. Welcome to Cardinal Rose Tarot. This is just going to be kitchen magic and culture. Um, the first time I've ever done one live. All of these so far have been uploads, but I thought it might be fun since it's the holiday season to try to do this live. Hopefully the signal's going to be coming through okay. I'm just going to be making a recipe that is rumored to have been made at Mount Vernon and was a recipe for eggnog invented by George Washington. I've since found out in doing the research about this recipe that it's likely not the case that this was George Washington's personal eggnog. I have a recipe for cordial type drink that he did used to serve as president, and I'm actually thinking about trying to make that at some other time. So I just thought it would be fun and kind of funny and interesting and historic. Spirits and wine, the origin of wine and spirits is the whole reason that distillation even came into being was through the esoteric mysteries and through experimenting, thinking that they may find the secret to alchemize lead or base metals into gold. Distillation started through that, then started, in on the discovery of wine and things. It was very holy. It was considered a holy practice, distillation and beer making and wine making. It's also clearly become a whole phenomenon, right, where alcoholism is a big problem. This is an alcohol drink, but you can make this recipe that we're making without any of the alcohol. And in fact, the recipe where I pulled the proportions and ingredients from, one of the commenters asked about that, and they got a reply saying that the person that replied said, oh yeah, I made this recipe last night with none of the alcohol. It was a huge hit. My family loved it. I'm going to be making eggnog with this recipe without the alcohol every year now. So this is alcohol as fuck. This recipe, it's got 4 different kinds of alcohol in it. Oh hey, I've got some people here. Hi, nice to see you. So what we have going here is sherry. This is a sherry from California. We have French brandy by Saint Remy. We have I decided to use Kentucky bourbon. I did not, or no, this isn't Kentucky bourbon, but it's bourbon. I ended up deciding against rye whiskey, mainly because I don't really drink anymore at all. And since this recipe calls for so much alcohol, I was like, well, I want to get something that I'm actually going to want to use later. It's rare for me to drink, but I wanted to have something really good quality that I was interested in. So I ended up getting bourbon instead of rye whiskey because I really wasn't that big on having rye whiskey on hand. And then this is Captain Morgan rum that I actually did have on hand because one of my offerings on my altar is of brown liquor. I have a spirit guide that likes brown liquor offerings, so that's why I have this rum here. So I'm going to probably use this up for the recipe. So I'm just going to go ahead and get going. Hi, thanks. You too. Have a good day to you as well, Matt Cronin. I'm just saying hi to everybody. So in case you're just checking in, I'm just now getting started. So I'm going to be making George Washington's eggnog recipe. And the first step in the recipe says to mix all of the liquors first. And I think and let them sit. And I think that must be just to help all of the liquor flavors blend. I don't really know why that's part of the instructions, but I thought it was interesting. And I'm going to abide by it because I don't want to fuck up the recipe. So it calls for 2 cups of brandy. Oops. Brandy is distilled wine, basically. It's great distillation. And I'm just using this little pitcher thing to mix all the liquors in first, since it's recommended to do so. One thing that I found was interesting when I was reading about the recipe is that it recommends that you let this rest for several days in the refrigerator before drinking it. And I was intrigued by that. I would have not thought to do that. I'm going to take a sip, obviously, after making it because I want to taste it on camera. But then I will be letting it sit in the fridge probably for, I think the author of the article I was referencing let hers rest for 5 days in the fridge. And so I'll probably do that too. And so it'll be ready for Christmas. And then now I've got the sherry here, and it calls for, I think, a quarter cup of sherry, a half a cup of sherry. I don't think I've ever had sherry in anything. If I had it in a mixed drink, I didn't know. I wasn't aware of it. The most I know about drinking sherry, like to drink it as a fine drink, is from the show Frasier. Him and his brother Niles were always drinking sherry in that show. And then we've got 1 cup rum and 1 cup of bourbon. I don't even know if I have a full cup of rum. So if I don't, I'm just going to make up for it with the bourbon. Yeah, not quite a cup here, but good enough. Maybe the founding fathers would be upset with me, but I don't think so. I think they probably like to drink as much as the next guy, and they weren't necessarily worried about all these proportions. So eggnog is from the UK. It's from Great Britain. That's where the drink originates. There are some precursors that I'll get into in a minute that they think came before eggnog in the UK, in Europe, in Germany, and in other parts of Europe. It didn't become associated with Christmas until it came over to the US. And in that case, that's when, in the colonies, that's when it first started becoming associated with the Christmas holiday. So I've got all of the liquors mixed here. I'm just going to give that a little stir so that they blend. It's a really pretty color. This gets blended into the eggs and milk and such here in a minute. But yeah, when it came to the US, it went through some some differing versions, mainly because at some point brandy had a really high tax, I read, and so they started substituting rum and then later whiskey. There's also a version of eggnog that's served in Venezuela, Trinidad, and the Dominican Republic, also brought over in the colonies, and it's called ponche crema. And it's served during the holidays there as well. In Mexico, it's called rompope, and I used to drink that in Mexico, and I didn't really realize or associate it with eggnog for some reason, but it's associated with eggnog. And it often involves Mexican cinnamon and rum or grain alcohol when you make rompope. In Puerto Rico, there's a version called coquito, which has coconut and rum. Peru, I wondered about Peru, and I wasn't disappointed. There is one in Peru, and it's made with pisco, which is Peruvian brandy, made from grapes that were brought over from the Spanish. They make eggnog called Biblia con pisco. In Germany, the early sort of drinks that they think may have been some precursors to eggnog, one was called Biersuppe, and it was made with beer. There's another one called Eier Punch, and it's made with white wine, eggs, sugar, cloves, tea, lemon, lime, so kind of a whole, different variations. And then a little bit more history before we just get into the recipe. The word nog is originally meant strong beer in England. Noggin was a small carved wooden mug that you used to drink beer out of. So eggnog, because of the eggs and then the alcohol content, right? The warm drink. Posset is also, posset is what they think might have been the precursor to eggnog. It's curdled milk and wine and ale. Monks made that, and that kind of taps into what we were talking about with beer and wine and distillation originally being a spiritual and an esoteric practice. And monks had posset that they made that was spiritual for them. They added eggs and figs. So they also talk about the fact that posset was not only made for a taste, but it was made as a cold and flu remedy, right? So these things were thought to be medicinal. Wine and spirits were. And then there are other holiday drinks similar to this called wassail and mulled wine, right? Okay, so now we're getting back into the recipe. You can tell that I'm not a professional at this. I'm just having fun. Yeah, I love it. I love eggnog. I'm into it. So I've been, in fact, part of the reason I got inspired to do this is because this year I was like, man, I'm going to start putting eggnog in my coffee while it's in season, because I haven't done that in forever. And it's been so good that I've been like secretly like, God, I wish they just made eggnog all the time. So I decided I'm going to try to make some, and what's the history, and that's what kind of inspired me. And then when I found out that George Washington supposedly had his own recipe it was on, I was like, well, this is interesting and funny. Like, I'm going to make George Washington's eggnog recipe. So, okay, we mixed the liquors together. Now we need to beat the egg yolks until pale. I already separated the eggs earlier so we wouldn't have to go through the whole thing. So, hopefully my egg whites stiffen, because I think they got a little bit of yolk in them, and I read that that helps, or makes it hard for your egg white to stiffen and form peaks. So let's see, we were just gonna get these yolks going. The first step is to beat these yolks until they're pale. And because this is a drink that has raw egg in it, I decided to use organic eggs, which I try to use anyways. Sometimes I just use free range, non-organic, but this time I bought organic eggs. I think after resting and marinating and all that alcohol, it's probably fine, but you never know. So, you know, probably not everybody's gonna feel comfortable having homemade eggnog in that case, right? Okay, so this over here. Beat these yolks. I don't know if you can see that here. Just trying to make it a little more interesting for you as a viewer. Just beating these until they look pale. If I remember, they get a really pale yellow color. I can see it's already kind of starting to happen, actually. This isn't the greatest lighting in this kitchen. I live in a really tiny house. It wasn't even originally, this was not even built to be a house. It was built to be a storage unit, and I turned it into a house. So I think that's getting pretty pale there. It is. It's gone from really bright orange down to a pale yellow. I don't know if that shows up here really well, but that's how you want it to be, right? Pale yellow. There we go with that. And then the next step is slowly beat in the sugar a little at a time. And I measured out the sugar. You want 3/4 cup sugar. So this is sweet as hell too. This is going to be really sweet eggnog. So I've got the sugar measured out here, and I'm just going to start beating that into the eggs a little bit at a time. I'd love to know if you are in here in the chat or catching this later in the comments. What are your favorite Christmas meals? What are your favorite Christmas traditions for cooking? Everybody's, you know, Thanksgiving is so one meal in the US, and I like it to hear everybody's variations on what they like to do on Christmas. My family liked to do prime rib a lot, so we did prime rib for several years. I'm not a big ham person. My dad loved ham, so he always wanted ham. And my sisters like ham too. I'm not a big ham lover. It's okay. It's just, I would always prefer something else, chicken or beef or something over ham. So I'm just getting this going. I've got about half the sugar in. I'm not exactly sure how slowly to mix it all in. So I'm trying to be conservative with it so that I don't ruin this, because it's a lot of ingredients for just a simple drink. There's whole milk, an entire quart of cream, which is interesting to me. It's just a very fattening, rich, indulgent drink, right? This eggnog recipe. There was a guy in the liquor store today selling, he and his family started a coffee liqueur, and he was in there providing little samples. It was really tasty, and it was really interesting to see him. He's indigenous, and it's a family effort. He and his family are doing this coffee liqueur, and it's exciting to see him set up shop in the liquor store, you know, getting his hustle going. I didn't buy any because, like I said, I don't really drink anymore, and I'm already buying plenty of alcohol for this recipe. This is an expensive way of buying all this liquor, but now I will have a small coming over that does drink, and I'll be definitely drinking this eggnog. I'm not going to pass it up. It's going to be tasty. I'll share some too, probably, because this is making a lot. It said it makes a gallon, I think. There was this funny comment too in the recipe. This guy, I wrote it down. This is one of the comments on the recipe. George Washington's eggnog recipe will destroy you, but I cannot tell a lie. I'm completely hammered, I say. It made me laugh because it is strong as hell, this recipe. And I could see completely getting hammered because it's like the Long Island iced tea of eggnogs here. The founding fathers knew how to party, apparently, and along with rape and pillage and colonize and all that. So, anyways, let's get this out of the way. That looks pretty well beaten. Slowly add the milk and cream and beat constantly. So here we have the quart of cream that we're working with and the quart of milk. I don't know if these are in the shot. I've got my quart of milk here. My heavy whipping cream. This is a local dairy. I try to do dairy. Or I mean, I try to do dairy. I try to do local. So I'm going to just start slowly adding this and beating constantly like it said. I've got the mixer ready for when I have to beat the egg whites, but this I decided to just go ahead and beat by hand with a fork. It looks like eggnog. It's starting to look like eggnog for sure. That frothy, foamy looking consistency. I don't know if you can see any. Let me see if I can move that so you can see a little bit of it. The light isn't the greatest in here for you to be able to see, and in fact that's too close to, might fall off. I shouldn't screw around like that. I'll just get this in the shot here in a minute. This bowl's almost not big enough. It's the biggest one I have though. It's kind of shallow. I wonder if I should try to switch it to the... one of my bigger pots or something. All right, so here's I've got all the cream in there going. This is all the cream mixing in with the egg yolk and the sugar. It's looking frothy and thick, of course, as it would with this cream, right? So next, now we're going to do the milk and beat constantly, like it was saying with the milk as well. So now I'm just beating this. It's got a nice froth forming on the top, like you would hope it would. It looks like eggnog. It's looking like eggnog, minus the color, the caramel color of the liquor that will give it that nice familiar color. So I think that's probably good for that. So now I don't see that very well. It doesn't look much different than it did when I had just the cream. But just showing what it looks like, since I've got a little bit of a difficult setup in here. I got some of that cream on stuff. So I'll make sure I get that all off there. I don't even know who has a bigger bowl than this. This is like the biggest bowl I have, and it's practically not going to fit. But anyways, so, oops. The next step, now that we've got all the milk and eggs, stir in the liquor until smooth, and then the other spices. I'm just going to do the nutmeg. I'm not going to add cinnamon. I think I'm just going to do nutmeg. So stirring in the liquor, here it is, the beautiful liquor. Just stir this in. It's so pretty. It's a pretty color. Oh my gosh, it smells really amazing. It smells just like eggnog. It smells so good. This is going to be yummy. I can tell already. I haven't even tasted it, and I can smell that it tastes good. You know how that is. There's very closely related senses, and I can smell how good it's going to taste. It's strong as hell. Oh man, I'm gonna definitely have to share this. Obviously, there's no way I'm gonna drink all of this by myself. But I have neighbors and friends that will take a bunch of it off my hands. If you were here, I would give you some. Sorry, I can't give you any. But I encourage you to make it, because just based on the smell alone, it smells really good. George Washington would be proud of us. He would be proud of us. I don't care whether he would be proud of me, though. I'm not a big Founding Fathers person. Okay, so, stir in the other spices. That's right, I forgot about the nutmeg. Gosh, this nutmeg's so packed in here, it's not coming out very well. It called for a teaspoon of nutmeg, so I'm kind of just winging it here. I could have slowed down and measured it out, but I didn't feel like pulling the cap off and getting out my measuring spoon. And I don't even have measuring spoons. It's just a normal table, like the spoons you use for serving food. It needs a little bit more, though, I can tell. It's more nutmeg. Excuse my awkwardness here. I might have to add more to taste later. I'll just get this basics down, a good base amount going here. I can taste it when I did a little taste test, but I could tell it could probably use a little bit more maybe at the end. It looks very beautiful. Very creamy and inviting looking eggnog here. And now the egg whites. Yeah, oh my God, that tastes amazing. I wish you were here, whoever. I wish you were all here and we could drink this together and have a festive little early week ahead of Christmas party. But you'll just have to trust me on it. It's very worth making. I recommend it because it tastes delicious already. And I can tell it is going to fit in this bowl, but it's really close. It's going to barely fit. Okay, so this is where, my hand, I've got a sore hand going here. I just need to beat these eggs now. These egg whites, I mean, until they form peaks. I'm going to see how well they do, because they may not form peaks, because like I said, there was a little bit of yolk in here, and I think I got it all out, but I don't know. So they may not ever form all the way stiff peaks like I'm hoping, but we're just going to try. I'm gonna have to turn this light on, sorry, because it's gonna be super bright and obnoxious, but I can't see the egg whites well enough, so. I think that might be it. I'm going to keep going a little bit longer, though, because I smell a stink bug. I hate stink bugs, and I smell one in here. Okay, now you just fold this in. Fold this in. And that's it. That's the recipe. So just rinsing this off here, this little spatula, and I'm going to go ahead and fold in the whites. And that is George Washington's eggnog recipe. Got some stiff peaks here, but there's more that I might have to beat this a second time to see if I can get the rest. So I didn't expect that, but that's okay. This is folding in nicely. And, you know, kind of giving this like a full body quality, right? But it looks like there's some that still haven't formed. So let me try one more and see how that goes. But if these don't stiffen up, we're just going to let that be. Although I just realized I don't think these are going to stiffen up because I'm going to try it though. I'm going to try it because fuck it. I'm here, I'm making it. I'm going to just try and see. Oh yeah, I think it's going to work. It's going to stiffen up here. It's good. Gotta be patient, I guess. It's not my strong suit. Perfect. It worked. I'm so proud. Proud of the eggnog. Proud of the eggnog. Proud of the eggnog that I'm bringing to you today. Yeah, and it smells good. Do I really want to add all of these egg whites? My God. I've got a lot here. I'm gonna, I don't know. I don't want to give up because I'm just gonna keep going. this is it pretty much. All the rest of this is stiffened. Okay, that is going to do it. There's a tiny bit left in the bowl, but I'm going to call it good with that because this bowl is full. And now, because this is all fairly well folded and blended in, it looks exactly like a punch. I'll go ahead and turn the camera over here now. So it looks just like a punch that you would be serving at a holiday party. I can see where it's called ponche crema, right, in Trinidad and Dominican Republic. And then, so anyways, now that I don't want to over stir it, you're supposed to stop at some point when you're folding something in. I don't want to be over eager, but it looks delish. Now you would want to serve this, putting some more nutmeg or cinnamon on top. Or like in the thumbnail, you could put a star anise on the top of the whipped cream. I bought some whipped cream to spray on pour on the top, but I'm gonna not use that now. I'm gonna use the whipped cream when I have some of this in my coffee, on my days off, of course. Right. So I'm gonna just go ahead, now that we have the moment of truth here, I'll put it in this little mug, this little So this is it. Isn't that pretty? Look at this beauty. This is my homemade eggnog, courtesy of George Washington. Let's try a sip. Man, it's good, but it's really strong. It's really strong, but I can see now, I understand the directions about, what am I trying to say? About letting it rest for several days because it's really strong right now and it'll mellow. The flavor is going to mellow out over the 5 days of sitting and resting. Salud. Merry Christmas. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.